Hi Megan, this is Rachel and this is my video response to you. You mentioned that your state you could not find any disciplinary actions for your state, so as a result you chose one from Virginia. I actually had the same problem. I'm from the state of Delaware, so I had to choose one from Maryland, which I'm hoping to move to within the next year, so it kind of worked out a little bit. You mentioned that dual relationships, unprofessional conduct, and patient confidentiality were the three common reasons why counselors were disciplined within the state of Virginia. You mentioned two specific cases. One was an in-home service where a counselor bought a plane ticket for a daughter to see her mother. And then the other one was where a counselor performed another in-home service where the counselor mentioned a dream he or she had about the client being pregnant after having 4 previous miscarriages. That was like the actual experience that the client had was the 4 previous miscarriages. And you asked a really good question about how to keep boundaries in place, especially as counselors in training today. I think really there are multiple ways in which we can keep boundaries, but I'm only going to mention like 2 or 3. Excuse me. The first, I think, is to really know the ACA Code of Ethics in and out, especially as counselors in training. It's very vital for us to make sure we know the ACA Code of Ethics well before we start our actual practices or go into actual organizations where we become fully licensed professional counselors. In order to not make the same mistakes that previous counselors have made, I find that the state of Maryland has a lot of violations of the ACA Code of Ethics. So especially in that case, I think that I would have to really know the ACA Code of Ethics well and make sure that I do everything in my power to adhere to those codes very well. Excuse me, and I think you can do that as well. It's just a really good practice, in general, for counselors in training. In the case of the daughter trying to make it home to see her mother, I think instead of the counselor paying for the daughter's plane ticket, what he could have done was brainstormed with the client about how to raise funds to buy that plane ticket home instead of actually buying that plane ticket for them. That crossed a boundary between professional and unprofessional, and I think it shouldn't have been done. But instead, the way a counselor could have done it was to maybe brainstorm and help them figure out maybe how they could have raised funds without actually giving the funds themselves. And the other case where the client was told a dream about what the counselor had was also very unprofessional. I think that kind of crossed the boundary between maybe a friend versus a counselor. The counselor should never be talking about a dream that they have about a client. I think that's very unprofessional, it's just not right. I think that is something that should be kept to themselves. And especially in that case, I think the counselor should have been more aware of what was in the client's file. I think the miscarriages most likely would have been listed in there. And so I think that the counselor should have been more aware and more up to date of what was listed in there and the previous traumas that the client might have mentioned before, any hospitalization records, any previous counseling records that might have been mentioned. They should have been more aware of what the client was going through or had gone through previously in order to become a more competent counselor and how to deal with any unresolved issues that the client might have had. And the counselor should have been more careful of what they said. So yeah, thank you.